Especially difference this morning. Good morning, Raymond. Good morning, Malik.
Good morning. Good morning.
And good morning, Enimwa.
Morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well.
It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
Do you want to think we are together again?
No, not this morning. Not this morning.
Straight to the front pages, guys.
Okay, let's start with the Chronicle newspaper, shall we? Forex Bureau owner in Tema shot dead by robbers. Ramadan is not a time to kill to kill each other. That's a member of parliament saying, witness lied on sole source in Opponents Council, and people now call me Olu. That's Kufuor, former president, reflecting on agony of growing old.
On the back page of the Daily Graphic, waste bins for all streets nationwide. And on the front page, climate change, integral parts of development agenda. President tells world leaders government will investigate Krobo PDS impasse, footbridges turned into markets. That story as well in the Daily Graphic.
The Ghanaian Observer is reporting this morning, Ghana is a success story according to the World Bank CEO, and mosquito attacks EC boss again. Men's Gold boss is back in Dubai court, and MPP has failed its promise to, as this according to Sampa's chief imam. There's one about the vice president being installed as the Inkabom Hine in the an area that I'll be telling you about later on, but that's on the front page of the Ghanaian Observer.
The New Crusading Guide newspaper has amidst rainy season, Weja Dams pillage unnerves residents, McCarthy Hill, Tetegu, Pambros, Salt, Bojo Beach to be affected. Government to supply sustainable, suitable fishing nets to fishermen, and Dunkaonofin to be major railway hub. That's Minister for Railways Joe Gate saying.
On the front page of the Daily Guide, Karachi DCE chased out, Kengpon rolls out AFCON package, GRA Iyoko clash over Rosewood. And on the back page, in a fate similar to Asamoah Gyan, Neymar, who was the captain of the Brazil team, has been stripped of his captaincy.
But please, Asamoah Gyan is way better because he is captain general. As for Neymar, he's just there.
General captain.
Well, he was actually permanent
Asamoah
captain.
Gyan is general captain.
General captain. But it's very serious because secretary general is much wilder than general
secretary. Yes.
Okay, Raymond, what's
About his general captain,
No, he's captain. Yeah, general captain.
not captain general.
Oh.
The Finder is reporting this morning.
Good morning, Asamoah Gyan. You're doing very well. We love you.
Yes, you
we
keep
want you in
general.
the studio. And we think that you're a great guy.
Yeah.
Raymond, please save me.
I hear you. Now, licensed journalists to ensure sanity prevails. This according to former President Kufuor. A water crisis looming, and of course, this is at the wager pump. But climate change actions are integral part of Ghana's development agenda. The president has been speaking on this matter.
The Daily Statesman newspaper has warned climate change story. Ghana integrates action into national development plan. Great push for women in ICT, ESLA says the girls factor is key to development in Ghana, and ESLA is communications minister. Rollins Jr. turns giant of cross-border trade. Those are the stories on the front page of the Daily Statesman newspaper.
Right, and on the front page of the Today newspaper, more troops to Tripoli. That's according to Dominic Nitiwo, Defense Minister. He was on the show yesterday speaking. But that's pretty much it for the Today newspaper.
Now, the Ghanaian Times is reporting this morning that the GJ's 70th anniversary launch justified passage of RTI law with responsible journalism. This ex-President Kufuor urging media practitioners, and now Sanitation Ministry will be distributing some 20,000 dustbins to MMDAs, and the president is calling for global action. There's also one on what you talked about, the women in ICT, key to unlocking Ghana's debt. That's on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. Yeah.
Daniel, let's start on a rather sad note. This Forex Bureau owner who was shot dead in Tema, at Tema Community 25 yesterday. Now, the story is that this gentleman was called, the Forex Bureau owner was called by an unknown person who said to him, I have $90,000 to change. So please meet me at the police station so that I can give you the 90,000 and take the CD equivalent of the $90,000. Now this Forex Bureau owner took the money. On his way to the police station that the caller asked him to come, the caller then ambushed him, shot him dead, and took the money and bolted with it. Now multiply 90,000 by, let's take this exchange rate to be 5.2. That's a huge amount of money for somebody to carry on you to go and meet an entire stranger.
That's 450,000.
So somebody,
almost $500,000.
absolutely. And this person, who unfortunately got shot and killed, was carrying, according to the story, this amount of money on him on his way to go and meet this person at a so-called police station so that the exchange could be done. And then these attacks on forex bureaus is not new. We remember 2016, a similar attack on a forex bureau in Kaneshi led to an amount of 150,000 being stolen. Of course, those persons were arrested and they were prosecuted and sentenced.
But the beginning of this year, Malik, Forex Bureau owners had cause to actually officially rise to the IGP because there were a number of robberies on their establishments, particularly around the Spintex Road area, and also here in North Kanesha as well. We had
absolutely. Yes. So the Kaneshi case, there was Haruna Alasan and Haruna Abdullah, Yakubu Alasan and Haruna Abdullah. Two of them were the people who were arrested in connection with a 150,000 theft at a forex bureau in Kaneshi. Of course, subsequently they were prosecuted, convicted, and then sentenced on account of that crime, and they were charged with conspiracy to commit crime and then stealing as well.
But to the Community 25 story, let's hear the eyewitness.
Efi moto ne chiba moto ni kwashe gaten bo mu yire omu yi moto no efi gaten omu shooting driver no but the enwu ya ne say omo fa chire akwakofa bibie efi car ni mo sande ko ba no mu ko nyina no mo ma warning shot but ye nyina ye wa na yesuro etu oni toto no me bisa na o mi mi go say anede na ekoso accident na ready ti de mi ani say afa etu okoso omu shooting kosoro amu shooting ties no na mi sta me ko share mi table as because me hu bi da mi suro my lifetime in Hubida.
And of course, she spoke a can and she was talking about how scared she was when she witnessed the fact that these guys were on a motorcycle. They kept on shooting as they were riding out of the neighborhood there. And you can just imagine the trauma that they went through. In related developments, there was a robbery at the Gumwa Porting Junction. Yes, just around in the Gumwa Dominancy district. And this would shock you guys.
And suddenly, from nowhere, we saw two guys in the middle of the road, and they had guns pointing in our direction. As the one on the left, like towards the driver, was signaling us to stop. Then immediately, I felt like something was not right because there was no barrier. Then I said, "I'm robbers." So the guy sped, and all I heard was, he sprayed the car because it's a blind van. So they saw the driver and the passenger at the front. So they got them down and asked them to bring their phones and their money. So when another car, like all the other cars started coming, they moved to them. So the other ones in the van also got down and they also, so people started backing and running into the bush.
They sprayed the car. For me, that's what stays with me. They sprayed the car with bullets. And you can imagine what this woman was going through, just sitting in that vehicle, driving away as fast as she could. But some people are being jailed for robbery as well.
Yes, they actually robbed a bread seller at gunpoint. So the woman had just arrived at Bantama in Kumasi, and what happened was that one physically disabled person and another pulled the knife. So the gentleman was holding the knife was the physically disabled person. He pulled the knife and the woman got scared, handed over the 1,600 she was actually holding and the 5 cedi bread that she had with her and gave it to them. But immediately after she handed over the money, people were leaving. She raised the alarm. When she raised the alarm, a lot of people came around. Our friend who was physically not so able decided to hide under some old bus. But he was retrieved later on and then taken to court. So the court finally has actually jailed them on their own plea of conspiracy to commit robbery, and they were convicted some days ago. Now, the interesting part in all of this is that the physically disabled person is being jailed 10 years on both counts, but the gentleman who held the knife is being jailed 12 years in this particular case. Now, the police explains that this is not the only incident that has been reported around the area, and that consistently when people that come from areas come and sell around Bantama, they have met people who came to rob them in this case. Now, the concerns people have is about the jail conditions for somebody who's not so able physically. In fact, even for the able, how they're able to cope in our jails in the country. I'm just wondering if we didn't have an alternative for, especially when it was established that he's not the guy who was holding the what they call it. Now, and he was not as dangerous
Yeah.
even though he actually conspired to commit the crime
Yeah.
in this case.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if we didn't have better situations for them, because 10 good years for somebody in that condition is just making a hardened criminal of the person by the time the person will leave the jail anyway.
But it has been established, Raymond, that our prisons in their current condition are hardly correctional.
That's the difficulty, and recidivism rate is going up, and we still have not sought to fix the fundamental problems in there. Well, anyway.
Which is why Seth did his work locked and forgotten left to rot to bring to the fore these issues. But there's a tax on sanitary pads. I can't believe I'm reading this out.
Yes, there is, Daniel. So yesterday was we were celebrating Menstrual Hygiene Day. The Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare organized a discussion, and they're asking that the 20% tax that is on sanitary pads be removed. Mrs. Korte, who is the director of the Department of Children, was arguing that a 20% tax on imported sanitary pads, when there's no local manufactured alternative, is making it more difficult for people who cannot afford to have them. Now, one sanitary pad is about 6 cedis, so it starts from about 6 cedis. For a cycle of about 3 days, you need maybe 4 or 5. If you're bleeding for up to 7 days, then gosh, you need maybe 7. Now, that's about maybe 42 cedis, 40 cedis, 35 cedis per menstrual cycle per month. Now, if you go to rural areas where people are earning 5 cedis a day or 3 cedis or 2 cedis a day, it is almost ludicrous to ask them to spend 35 cedis a month on sanitary pads for one woman. So let's say mother, 2 children, that's going in the hundreds in that case. However, this has a ripple effect on education. And Raymond was talking about this yesterday. He was telling me about when he did a study about how schoolgirls are actually staying out of school and not being able to go to school because they're in their periods. There was a 2010 Oxford study which showed that half of all girls who stay out of school are out of school because they cannot afford sanitary pads. UNICEF has said 1 in 10 girls in Africa who are not in school are missing school because they're in their period, they cannot afford sanitary pads, and also because of the discrimination and the stigma that goes with having your period. And I can understand, because I mean, my daughter is turning 10 and one of her biggest concerns is, Mommy, if my period comes and I am at school, what am I going to do? Will the boys laugh at me? Will the other people laugh at me? So I can understand, but imagine then if on top of that we couldn't afford sanitary pads. So we're asking that 20% be taken off, and also that, you know, we find locally manufactured alternatives, because at the moment there are none.
I remember some 3 years ago, we sought money from the World Bank to buy sanitary pads, and people laughed at it, but it's a very serious situation.
Yes.
And that study reference that was done in Bongo soy. Yeah, Bongo soy. It was.
Why were you looking at Malik's face?
Yes, because I wanted the soy mentioned properly.
You were afraid you were going to butcher the name.
Yes.
It's not a problem.
You know,
It's not a problem. You
Okay,
go.
yeah. And so before we actually tail off, it's interesting that we need to acknowledge the ambassadorial role that has been given to the Honorable Israeli in this particular area. So he's a menstrual, hygiene ambassador. If you saw him yesterday, he was donning that wonderful shirt and the embossment of a huge ambassador in the area.
V is your liar.
Yeah.
Well,
Why do I sense some mischief?
no, there's no mischief.
No
We
mischief
are
intended. I'm just
congratulating.
congratulating.
But you know what? I
A
think
great
that-
ambassador.
I think it's key that someone like Israel is being used for this,
Yeah.
because if girls are staying out of school because of stigma, it means the boys in school also need to be educated
Yes.
to be able to handle and relate with girls in that area. And I just saw on Instagram yesterday, my good friend Ethel, who's the head of Junior Shapers Africa, and she actually led a group of young boys to donate sanitary pads to some less privileged women last year in 2018. It's a really, really great initiative to
Yes.
help boys to deal with these.
The greater
girls further.
initiative will be to remove the 20% tax.
True. Another
That
great
would be
initiative
great.
will be to averse the water crisis that could loom.
Yes, okay, so that particular crisis is coming up because there's a problem at Wager, and the Wager plant is having power problems. The power problems are just because the people who are there cannot, in fact, so PDS is supplying energy to them, but the pressure is extremely low or extremely high sometimes. When it's very high, it destroys virtually all the machines there. And they have had 3 of their pumps having difficulties. When the water pump, the pressure is very low, they can hardly pump water to the areas they're supposed to supply. So specifically, areas in that particular Accra West zone, like La Paz, like the Niboyman and all of those, people have been complaining about having water problems. And this is the basic reason why that is happening. The other thing they are telling us is that for a very long time, they've not had any standby generator for their plants. So when the power goes off, they don't have water. And that's where the main difficulty is. They say they are looking at alternatives or trying to fix that problem anytime soon, so that now they are supplying half of the people who are supposed to supply with water, with the hope that they'll be able to beef up when they get the new systems in place.
Let's go to court. The counsel for Dr. Stephen Opuni, the former COCOBOD chief executive, who is standing trial at the High Court for causing financial loss to state, amongst others, yesterday accused the third prosecution witness, Dr. Yao Eduampuma. And Dr. Yao Eduampuma is advisor to the Agric Minister. He's a former deputy chief executive of COCOBOD. He's a third prosecution witness. Samuel Kujo, who is lawyer for Dr. Opuni, is accusing the witness of lying to the court in respect of sole sourcing for fertilizers. Dr. Yao Eduampuma had told the court that COCOBOD uses competitive tendering when it is when it's going to buy fertilizers or ask persons or companies to supply fertilizers to COCOBOD. Now, yesterday during cross-examination by Mr. Samuel Kujo, he pointed out that the witness actually lied to the court. He produced documents which he tendered in court through the witness, showing that witness himself, whilst he was deputy chief executive, actually signed off agreements that they did sole sourcing. And he gave him letters that he wrote to the PPA asking for permission to resort to single sourcing or sole sourcing in the procurement of fertilizer. Well, the witness said it is not true that in all cases they do sole sourcing, that in some cases they do advertisement and invite tenders. In other cases, they do sole sourcing.
Hope he provides the evidence to show that. Anyway, we are going online now, and the online news review is brought to you by Zenith Bank, in your best interest in GOIL Good Energy. Make your day productive by relying on quality fuel from GOIL, your 3-time CIMG Petroleum Company of the Year. GOIL Super XP and Diesel XP are additivated to enhance strong engine performance and prolong the lifespan of your vehicle. Above all, you are guaranteed extra quality with our fuel analyzer from our mobile laboratory van. Get your money's worth every day by buying fuel and lubricants from any of GOIL's over 360 service stations nationwide and experience good energy. Buy GOIL, grow Ghana. GOIL, good energy. GOIL, Yenara, Yedia. Go lights with Zenith Bank and have dinner on us at the Plush African Regent Hotel. To enjoy this offer, simply use any MasterCard to make a minimum purchase of 500 Ghana cedis on a Zenith Bank POS at the African Regent Hotel and be rewarded with a free dinner or a discount of 100 Ghana cedis on other meal options. Visit the African Regent Hotel today. Use any MasterCard on a Zenith Bank POS and have dinner on us. Go light with Zenith Bank. Pay light. Zenith Bank. In your best interests. Tripartite conflict. Can independent arbiters bring peace? This is from the Vice Chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Defence and Interior, Collins Osuamankwa. We had quite the conversation around the tripartite conflict yesterday on the Super Morning Show. If you missed it, listen.
We are appealing to the two ethnic groups to please stop the conflict because it is really affecting we the candidates. As at now, when we are in our various houses, we cannot do anything about it. So they should please stop the conflict because this year the cut-off grade is 3.5. And as we are in the house, we cannot do anything. I'm crying because we are suffering. The government should do something about this conflict because it is really affecting we the BC candidates.
Police and not let us behave like human beings because we can not sometimes we go out of human beings and what is that? Why should you take gun, kill your own brother? I think something needs to be done. We need to change.
Chikone is a nice place, just that I don't just know where these people are getting this kind of guns from. The question, that's the question. They are not government workers. They are just doing pizza farming. Where did they get this kind of guns from? That's the question.
These are people, if you hear the news in Accra, you will not believe it. They are nice people. Look, they are greeting you and they are bowing. It's like sometimes you get embarrassed. But sometimes when you hear that they can do such things to themselves, I sometimes cannot understand. I don't know whether it's some evil, but one thing I want to say today is that sometimes we must change our tactics also. I think now those places are dominated by Muslims. I want to appeal to the imams and the malams that preach. We shouldn't be going just to worship and leave. I think this is the time they should seize this opportunity also to preach peace. Use the Quran. There is so many verses in Quran that they can use to preach peace to these people when they come to the mosque. I think now we should use them more than any other person.
So those were callers and a JHS student, a BC candidate who was appealing for peace. We also add our voices to these various persons who are connected to Tripoli in various ways. We are asking that if you are there, the impact of your action is not worth the action itself. I don't know why you decide to fight, but trust me, a child's education is not worth it. And it's definitely not worth the pain that this woman feels after she lost everything. It's alive on the Super Morning Show. We'll be right back.